And now it's time for a panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. We will be talking about empowering learning for all, unlocking the potential of quality EdTech and AI for underserved communities that have found it more challenging to access education. And our expert panelists will be taking stage now. First, I'd like to invite our moderator, Head Government Partnerships and Programs, Khan Academy, India. Please welcome Shubhra Mittal. And I'd also like to invite our panelists. Please show your love for them, show your appreciation for them. Let's welcome CEO, Project Director, EdTech, Tulna Subodh Sangwan. Project Director, EdTech, Central Square Foundation, CSF, Gauri Gupta. Joint Commissioner, Academic, Navodaya Vidyalay Samiti, Gyanendra Kumar. Program Specialist for Education, UNESCO South Asia Regional Office, Jian Shitang. Over to our moderator, Ms. Shubhra.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to have all of you amidst us today. And the morning started off on such an inspiring note, hearing Sal's journey, hearing his vision and just what the last 15 odd years have been for him. I'm really delighted to have with us this esteemed panel. And, you know, all of them bring in such incredible experience, have been working in education, EdTech for decades. And we have an opportunity to hear from them what their experiences are, what their perspective is, and how they see technology, AI, shaping the future of education. So thank you so much to all of you for taking the time to be with us today. I'm going to get started, and Gyanendra ji, I'll start with you first. You know, you as a policy maker, as a leadership of the Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti, you know, how do you see technology and AI for the students in JNVs and more broadly government school students? And how do you view partnerships with organizations? Because I'm sure so many organizations come to you, want to, you know, be involved. How do you view some of those partnerships?
Thank you, Shubhra ji. First of all, I introduce my organization as a Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. We are having 653 residential schools under Ministry of Education in the entire country, one in each district of the country, from class 6 to 12th. And I'm happy to share that we are having long association with the Khan Academy since 2017, when Khan Academy has piloted 6 schools, with these 6 schools, this program, guided learning program in mathematics. With regard to your question, how that educational technology is shaping the education in the country, you see that first thing is access to all. With the support of technology in our country, education is reaching to remote location in the form of video lectures, in the form of learning management system to assist the teacher. One thing I would like to clear that nothing can replace the role of teacher. Technology can be used as a teaching aid, assistance to the teacher, to assist the teacher in the transaction of the content in the classroom teaching. In that view, the technology is playing a vital role in the education system. Virtual labs, virtual reality tours, global connectivity, exchange program. So technology is being used extensively in the field of education, especially after COVID-19. There was a dark era, but there was opportunity also. We all started to use technology, and that gave a lot of assistance in the present implementation of national education policy in the digital era. With regard to your second question, the partnership of different agencies with the government organization or any education system, the first thing is it must align with the educational aim or educational goal, national curriculum framework. As per NEP 2020, we have curriculum aim, curriculum competencies with reference to national curriculum framework for secondary education especially, so that the content should be aligned with this curriculum, number one. Number two, there must be, the content must be in the Indian context. The example must be from real life situation from our country. There must be cultural sensitivity in the content, and most important is it must be, the cost is matters in our country, so that it must be affordable also. As during that interaction with founder of Khan Academy, Swati ji might have asked the question that if something is free of cost, whether it has value. Yes, it has value. For those who are on the last stage of economical status, for them 100 rupees also counts. Many people come to me in my organization to collaborate with us with lot of cost. So I say that education is not a industry. Here don't come to have a business model. You come to this sector to assist the people, to assist the children. So my only concern is that technology must be affordable. हर बच्चे तक ये पहुँच पाए बिना कॉस्ट के. और I am thankful for the Khan Academy that they are providing free of cost all the platforms, assisting our teachers to train them, having opportunity to assist them and to track them their learning. So next thing is affordable. The another thing is, whenever we are doing partnership to access that technology, it should be licensed free. What people are saying, वो आते हैं कि साहब बहुत कम cost है, but after 1 year you have to renew that license. Then again cost comes. So during that partnership with these agencies, we must see the hidden cost also. We are doing with lot of organizations such type of partnership in our system, and I hope that in implementation of NEP and the national curriculum framework, technology will assist our teachers, it will help our teachers to have a quality modern education at par with any global platform, so that students can enjoy the teaching in the classroom situation and we can achieve the learning outcomes. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Gyanendra ji. And it's really heartwarming to see just how the Navodaya Vidyalayas are a model school and the way they are giving opportunities to these meritorious students to succeed in life. So Bodh, I'll move to you now. You know, in the market, there are so many EdTech products, and we have a room full of educators. And for so many of us, it can be so confusing on which is the right EdTech product, which one is really going to make the shift in student learning. From your experience at EdTech Tulna and the work that Tulna has done, What would be your 2 or 3 factors that you think, all of us should be looking at when we're choosing an EdTech product for ourselves, for our students?
No, thanks for that question. And see, the challenge is education is almost like a medicine pill. If you ask me, look at this medicine and tell me which are the 2, 3 things which will help me decide it's effective or not. There are few things which you can see very quickly, you can diagnose very quickly, but there are many long-term effects that require a deeper evaluation, long-term impact study. So selecting what you can test upfront, I think Gyanendra touched on many of those. You should basically check the content accuracy, the curriculum mapping, is it covering all the LOs that we want to cover? And of course, the cost dimensions, what are the upfront costs, what are the recurring costs? 2, 3, which you can check upfront, I'll add to that list. One, for the intended users, how engaging is it? If you leave the kid with it for 1 hour, 1 week, are they encouraged to explore more, or they have to be pushed to use it? They are actually trying to do something else on the laptop or the tablet. So how engaging it is, how intuitive to use it is, those are another 2, 3 dimensions that you can check upfront. But the challenge comes, which are the dimensions which really drive learning and cannot be checked so quickly upfront, are like, what is the pedagogy it follows? And there it means, is it using active learning? Is it connecting to my prior knowledge? Is it addressing all the typical learning gaps or misconceptions that happen in this topic? What's the quality of assessments? Is it covering all the cognitive levels that this topic needs to address? And last big one, where all the educational products are going, is how adaptive or personalized it is to the learning level of the individual learner that is catering to. Unfortunately, these 2, 3 aspects require a deeper evaluation. So then comes your question, then what do we do? So I would say that for the first half, definitely check those quick to discern things that we talked about. The mapping of the curriculum, the content accuracy, comprehensibility, intuitive to use, engaging. These 4 things we should check quickly upfront, and the cost, those 5 things. And on these deeper ones, the right way will be to look at some of the existing evidence. So what could be some of the existing evidence? Most of the EdTech products will have some of the impact studies done. Try and look at that, what kind of population, what segment of the students, how good was that sample, what was the impact. If no impact study done, you can always go to our website at EdTech Tulna. That's what we are trying to do, have a ready evaluation of some of the leading products so that you can see how good is their pedagogy, how good is their adaptive algorithm, how good is their assessment. That's what we put out on our website so that people like you can make a more informed choice of what product I am selecting. So you can refer to EdTech Tulna website. If neither of those cover that product yet, third option could be where that product has been used, either a school chain or a big school, getting a more real life feedback from those users, from those teachers or that institution. What were the good things, what were the challenging things in their application? So no quick way to discern these long-term effects apart from studying the existing evidence, which you can do either from their impact studies or resources like EdTech Tulna or through existing users' feedback. So I think combination of these 2 should help you guide there.
No, thanks a lot, Subodh. And I'm going to ask you, and I'm sure a lot of us in the room are curious, if KhanEdSummit has been evaluated, you've evaluated KhanEdSummit at Tulna, and what has been your assessment from that evaluation of KhanEdSummit?
No, so I think what our experience has been is there's a bit of a selection bias. All products who are making products with the right intention, with the right pedagogy are more forthcoming to EdTech Tulna to get evaluated. And KhanEdSummit was one of the earliest products which got evaluated. You all can see the report, it fared well. It was at a very earlier stage, so the Indian contextualization was less at that stage. So we owe a evaluation again. We should refresh that evaluation in the coming year, both for the contextualization and for all the Khan Migo elements that have come in now. So we should put out that updated report hopefully this year sometime soon.
No, that's great to know. I'm going to move to you, Gauri. And there are, of course, there are products and, they're designed with, with the right, content, pedagogy are engaging. But adoption at scale is another challenge. And I know at Central Square Foundation, you're all working with a lot of different EdTech organizations, really seeing how to drive adoption at scale. What would be your top 2 or 3 sort of insights from all of that work in what is really needed for these products to not just be used once, but really be used regularly, periodically by students for it to make a difference to learning?
Great question, Shubhra, and $1 million question, very honestly. But first, it is such a pleasure to be in this room and see, the incredible work that, Swati, you are doing through all these amazing people. So, congratulations, Khan Academy, for, all the work you're doing. And thank you so much to all of you. So I think there are a few things that need to come together, right? And most of the things that need to come together are in this room in my mind, right? The product has to be right. The product has to be pedagogically strong. It has to be contextually relevant, right? And it is a journey. वो 1 साल में नहीं होता, 2 साल में नहीं होता, उसको time लगता है, right? So we all have to be patient. And the feedback from the ground is imperative to get that product right. So that's the first thing that in my mind needs to be right. The second one is that the program has to be right. Or program and product coming together का क्या मतलब होता है? Program and product coming together मतलब जो लोग उसे implement करने वाले हैं, जो उन्हें adopt करने वाले हैं, one, they have to believe in it. They have to have the capacity to absorb it and then pass it on. And there has to be the third element, which is appropriate governance, right? So government stakeholders हैं, यहाँ पे teachers हैं. And when I say governance, it's not only about monitoring, right? It has to be about incentivization. It has to be about accountability. कि अगर हमने EdTech में investment करा है, are we ensuring that our educators have the capacity to implement it? Are we ensuring that we are monitoring the right metrics for adoption and holding the product company accountable for building the product further in case we are not seeing the adoption, right? So all of these things have to come together. Or I would like to call out, there is EdTech which is used in the classroom, right? And वो आप देखोगे, आप बच्चों को लैब में ले जाओगे, वो बैठ के EdTech के साथ engage करते हैं. Even engagement within that setup, कितने बच्चे actively engage कर रहे हैं और कितने बैठ के click कर रहे हैं, उसमें variation आता है. पर अब आप देखोगे, given smartphone penetration has been increasing so much, we see a lot of EdTech usage at home as well, right? And that is where the role of the product becomes critical for it to be engaging. कि बच्चा wants to do EdTech and not play games, right? So वहाँ पे engagement, how do you keep the child, want to be on the product becomes important. So just summarizing, I think 3 critical enablers for any EdTech intervention to be successful: the product, the program, and the governance. And it's so wonderful that you have all 3 in the room today, because I think that collaboration can really help our children learn much better.
No, thank you, Gauri. And I think we have, people like Gyanendra ji to thank, who really do help with the governance mechanism and the structure. Gyanendra ji, I'll come back to you, right? And, Gauri talked about product, program, and governance mechanism. And for any EdTech product, one big factor becomes the digital infrastructure. There's the devices and the internet access. And we know that in many government schools, that is limited. Adequate तो बहुत कम government schools में है, limited में बहुत सारे government schools में है. Given this, and yet our desire for technology to be used for technology to be an enabler for teachers and students. What would be your advice to all the educators, the teachers and principals in the room today on how they can still benefit from technology with this as a constraint?
You see that you might have observed that there is a limitation in providing the digital resources in the school, government school. But I am happy to share with you with reference to Navodaya Vidyalaya. We are having tablets for all class 11th and 12th students, number one. We have 50% smart classes, and remaining 50% smart classes, classroom will be converted to smart classes within 6 months. We are going to provide one tablet to each of our teacher. During the COVID time, we have provided digital notepad so they can connect the students during that online training. So lot of resources are being provided in the government schools now. Things are being changed. 15,000 schools are being selected under PM Shri scheme, under which 2.5 crore for 4 years is being funded by central government of India to enrich the facilities, digital resources in each of the schools. One thing. So providing that digital resources, it is now being enriched even in remote location in the state government also. In the phased manner, these resources are being provided. But now question is whether that schools are able to utilize these resources. Because whether the teachers are trained to utilize these digital resources, especially in the government sector. फंड एक बार आता है खरीदने के लिए, वो चीजें खरीद के ले जाके रख दी जाती हैं और उनका उपयोग करने का न तो प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है शिक्षकों को और न उनको इनेबल किया जाता है कोई मॉनिटरिंग सिस्टम के माध्यम से कि उनका यूटिलाइजेशन हो. तो जो कुछ भी रिसोर्सेज सिस्टम में है वो यूज हो, और वो यूज तब होंगे जब टीचर एम्पावर्ड होगा, उसकी कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग होगी. और ये कंपोनेंट हम अपने सिस्टम में किसी भी डिजिटल रिसोर्स को प्रोक्योर करते समय उसका टेंडर में उसको पार्ट बनाते हैं कि आपने अगर स्मार्ट बोर्ड दिया तो इसके साथ ट्रेनिंग भी देनी है, देन ओनली वी विल पे यू. So that until unless teacher will not be trained, he or she will not utilize these resources. Number one. The next thing is how to make whatsoever resources in the school, how to track the students' learning, how to empower the teachers to track the student learning. You see in the Khan Academic portal, many of our teachers are doing this, using this tool. Graded assignment, what student is doing on that platform, teacher is monitoring, he is assisting the children to learn, to get the competencies, so that slowly the government sector is in many area is far better than private sector nowadays in the school system. And in coming days, things will be changed. Our teachers will be empowered to utilize these resources in the right manner, and students will enjoy the actual learning in classroom situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gyanendra. And I'm sure what you're sharing will resonate with many educators in the room and what their experiences are as well. I'm going to come to you, Jian, and I'm going to switch gears and I'll talk about now AI, which is the next big thing when we talk about EdTech. And while there's a lot of excitement, there's also a lot of skepticism around AI. Sal talked about KhanMigo. We have some educators here who are using KhanMigo both in classrooms and students. But from your and UNESCO's work, it would be wonderful to hear, some top 2-3 areas that you believe are going to be critical as we talk about leveraging AI in education. Areas around ethics, around inclusiveness, around, human-centered approach. So, would love to hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rubra, for the question. And as Gauri mentioned, thank you so much for the invitation to be able to speak to all of you champions. The most important people in the education system are really the principals, the teachers, the people in the schools who implement and do the hard work every day. It's an absolute privilege to be able to speak to all of you and to share some of our thoughts. From the AI standpoint, I mean, it's very scary, right? We, just like all of you, are kind of going and making our way in a certain kind of darkness. And the darkness is not a static darkness, it's constantly evolving. The landscape for AI technology is changing all the time. From UNESCO's standpoint, a couple of things, okay? We have done research and released research on generative AI. So one of the top recommendations that we put out in our publication, this was almost 1.5 years ago, so bear that in mind, is that the type of AI models that we find in the market are not necessarily contextually relevant to each country, to each education system. And Gajendra ji, you already mentioned this, right? Contextually relevant learning resources. Data is the fuel that is used to train the models. It's also the basis on which the models end up giving you the outputs that you use whenever we interact with AI. So on that point, I think one of the top principles that UNESCO advocates is that it has to be inclusive of the diversity of, let's say, the Indian cultural context, both from the languages point of view, also from the different groups that exist in India, as well as the different states, right? The peculiarities of each of the states. So it's really important that we don't necessarily assume AI is always accurate, that the outputs are correct, and that's really, really important. I think what I really liked from the earlier presentations and the earlier talks with Sal and Swati and also the presentation is this issue, for example, of gender, right? A lot of technology, a lot of the data on which the AI models are built is already incorporating gender biases and stereotypes. That's just one example of the stereotypes and biases that will continue to be perpetuated, that keeps on being repeated in the models that are trained. And so when we're talking about use of AI in education, the companies, the product designers, the platforms have to actually actively challenge and test against these kinds of issues. So that's number one. I think the second aspect, and it's already been talked about, is this issue of digital access, right? Inclusive digital access. You can't have use of AI without the fundamental aspect of digital infrastructure and resources. The Indian government has already released data for 2023-2024 saying about 57% of government schools have functional computers, 54% have access to internet. But even that statistic doesn't show how is it actually being used in the school, right? How are teachers having access to these devices to be able to use it in the classroom, which again has already been mentioned before. So that's something that we have been talking about for the past 2 decades, and it's really up to the governments as well as the partners such as ourselves, such as Khan Academy, such as all the generous sponsors and donors that work with organizations such as CSF as well, to ensure that education is a public good, right? It is not, as Gajendra ji already mentioned, education is not a sector in which profit should be made, right? We are working all together to make a better world, especially for the future generations. So the last thing I want to talk about is that technology is not a substitute for the person and the people in the classroom. And this is a key principle that UNESCO continuously enforces and talks about to the governments that we speak to every day. AI is supposed to be a supportive and assistive tool to the teachers in ensuring, for example, that the students who need help can get the tailored help to better pick up the concepts better, learn the concepts that they need to learn, but also addressing the, let's say, the students who are able to accelerate and progress further and continue to keep them motivated. But how is AI going to do that without the teacher in the classroom? The teacher is the one who has to make the assessment, make the decisions, and also understanding that AI is not just directly supporting the teacher, but it can also be used to help professional development. So why do I talk about professional development? Because it's one of the key areas that are highlighted in UNESCO's AI competency framework for teachers and students, which was released last year in September. So it's quite recent. Again, technology is moving fast, but we try to develop these AI competency frameworks for teachers and students to ensure that it can actually match what governments need in particular to guide how they develop curriculum, how they develop teaching and learning materials, how they can support teacher training with the right pedagogical approach. Because ultimately, as Subodh was talking about evidence, right, and what's the research saying, the research on technology used in the classroom is all over the place. There isn't one simple answer. But one of the key principles that has been drawn from our findings is that it depends on the teacher. The most effective use of technology depends on the pedagogy that is being used by the teacher in the classroom. So ultimately, the teachers are the ones we need to support. The teachers are the ones that need to have peer-to-peer learning, that have to see models of good practices, and that can have advice and feedback, hopefully from, for example, AI agents and AI chatbots in the future. So I'm going to stop there and give the floor back to you. Thank you so much.
Can I just add one thing on the AI bit, right? So, बहुत भय है AI के बारे में. Students काफ़ी आगे हैं, right? हमने सर आपके schools में कुछ surveys करे थे, वहाँ पे बहुत high passive usage है AI की, right? लोग obviously Google में search करते हैं, उनको recommendations आ रहे हैं. सो बहुत है. बच्चे ये समझ रहे हैं कि अगर मैं चैट जीपीटी से जाके अपना होमवर्क के सजेशंस मांगूंगी, मेरा होमवर्क दूसरे बच्चे के होमवर्क से डिफरेंट रहेगा, तो टीचर को पता ही नहीं चलेगा, राइट? एंड देयर इज़ फियर इन द माइंड्स ऑफ द टीचर्स अबाउट दिस, राइट? सो आई डू बिलीव दैट AI इज़ समथिंग दैट everyone needs to be aware and literate about. Right? So that we are not fearful about AI, we know how to use it, we know how to use it responsibly, because frankly it's not going away. But at the same time, and hence that literacy becomes very important, and I think it is the responsibility of all of us, right, to ensure that there is adequate material available so that the AI literacy is available. And AI literacy doesn't mean कि we learn coding, right, कि हम AI बनाना सीखें. It is the use of AI, right? और for a subset of the users, अगर हमें वो skills build करनी है, उसे हम AI skills कहते हैं, right? So मैं बस ये कहना चाह रही थी कि it is important to make ourselves aware, right, about the use of AI, so that we can become actually active contributors to it, rather than just passive recipients. That was.
No, thanks so much, Gauri, for sharing that. And I think what I'm taking away from what Jian and you said is that just like we talked about EdTech, AI is here to stay, but it's important to know that, it's not going to replace anybody, and we shouldn't look at AI as replacing. And using our own judgment is going to be very important. We can't blindly trust what is, what ChatGPT or any AI tool is telling us. We do need to use our own judgment. So that's going to be very important, and be aware of some of the, biases that may come in, with respect to gender, etc. So it's important for us to be aware of all of it. So Bodh, I'm going to move to you. With the, again, all the flurry of AI products and generative AI products that, that are already there and will be hitting, evaluating them will again be a bigger challenge, right? And there are, beyond just the product areas that you spoke about, now it's going to be areas of biasness, accuracy, inclusiveness. Um, how are you all at EdTech Tulna viewing this change that is coming, and what are some of the work that you're doing at EdTech Tulna?
No, that's a fair question, and the answer is evolving for us also. It's not an easy answer. So I think it's important to understand how are the product companies trying to use AI today. Largely, we have seen three ways, if I try and make it slightly easy to categorize. One, all the content creation, translation, can we make that process more cost and time efficient using AI? So that is content generation in the backend. Can you make it more time and cost efficient? Second, all these dynamic interactive features which generate personalized content on the go. The AI tutors, the personal chat boxes, the personal exercise practice, which are generating content dynamically for a user depending on what he or she wishes to ask at that particular point in time. And it could be for teachers as well as learners. And number three is all those adaptive personalization algorithms जो पहले rule based होते थे, if the learner is at this level, start here, take them there, making those background algorithms self-learning with AI. The idea is the AI answer can be way better than rule-based answer, so that's the replacement they are experimenting with. So for Tulna, Tulna has always evaluated the output. So first one is relatively easy, whether the content is generated by human content generators or by the AI in the background, largely the same standards of the content, the pedagogy and the UI design interface should hold. They might get updated faster, we might need to redo the evaluations faster, that might be a minor implication. The second one is a challenging one where the dynamic content, har baar the answer is different depending on the question you asked. Evolving thought is it needs to be evaluated, A, using AI itself. Can we have some kind of question batteries which can give those prompts and analyze the accuracy of those answers rather than expecting humans to analyze the accuracy of every chat interface? Or can you be smarter about commenting on the quality of the background source, the LLM they are using, or is there a standard database they are using rather than going to open source LLM so that the answer is constrained to a particular RAG is the system they call it, so it is constrained to that typical knowledge base rather than going to a LLM to feed any answer. That could be the second one. Third one is the biggest black box, and how the background personalization, AI is deciding who should read what first, attempt what first. If done well, it can be amazing. It can make learning very engaging. The idea is it can optimize that this is what I like to do, it will give me more of that. I like to do questions in cricket context, मुझे cricket context में questions देगा. I like to do questions only in 2 choices rather than 4 choices, वो मुझे उसी तरह cater करके देगा. It can make the journey super engaging. But the risk is, if uncontrolled, can it make leaps or changes which are not pedagogically sound? Like Newton's के third law पहले दे दिया, first law बताए बिना, it can the adaptive roam around in unconstrained domains if it is not constrained. So that is the biggest black box to answer and a bit of a challenge for us also, how to answer if the adaptive algorithms are using AI in the background.
That sounds quite a challenging one, and the rapidness with which this technology is evolving and things are changing. Really looking forward to seeing some more evidence research from Tulna to educate all of us. So thanks a lot, Subodh, for sharing that. I'm going to switch gears back to, Gauri, something that you mentioned where you're seeing a lot of usage at home. And, I don't know, I'm sure many of the teachers here would resonate with what I share. And, as a parent myself, there's also a hesitation in giving a phone or a device to a child and saying, unsupervised, what do they do? And, are they going to be on YouTube? Are they going to be playing games? What are again some things that you're learning where parents are going to play such a critical role in this journey? How do we bring them into this ambit, and how do we take away this entire fear of बच्चा क्या करेगा जब उसको मोबाइल देंगे, पढ़ाई नहीं करेगा, बाकी सब चीज़ें करेगा? So, experiences, Gauri, and then of course opening it to everybody on the panel to comment on this.
So at the Central Square Foundation, we've been working on foundational literacy and numeracy a lot, right? So how do you get a child to start reading with comprehension by grade 3 or age 8, right? So we've been dealing a lot with the younger children. And we also did a survey 2 years back called the Bharat Survey for EdTech, where we went to low-income households and assessed what was the penetration of, the device, which was the smartphone. How were parents engaging with their children's education? How were children engaging with technology? Or there's some interesting findings that I want to share with you, right? And which is also in some ways validated by, the recent ASA results. So about 75% of households in low-income India, both urban and rural, had a device in the house, right? Children didn't necessarily have a dedicated device, but there was a shared device. Children were spending about 30 minutes on their parents' phones every day, right? And what were they doing? Watching YouTube, playing games, right? जब हमने उनसे पूछा कि what type of आप education के लिए use करते हो, predominantly, right? And that's something that Khan and all of us have to work on. What EdTech products do you use? YouTube, right? So I think this was what we were seeing from the ground. So I think a couple of realizations. One, the fact that children are very adept, right? और आप उनको जितना ही टेक्नोलॉजी से दूर रखना चाहो वो एंगेज करेंगे ही. हमारा ये प्रयास है कि हाउ डू वी मेक दैट एंगेजमेंट मीनिंगफुल? इज देयर अ वे इन विच वी कैन टेक 10 minutes out of those 30 minutes to get them to engage with educational content that is again built well? And already there are studies showing, and this is again for small children, so it may not apply to middle school as much, but 10 minutes of usage of a high quality EdTech solution led to almost 1 year of additional learning, right? तो क्लास में कुछ हो रहा था, बच्चे उसे 10 मिनट जाके घर पे प्रैक्टिस करते थे और उनका जो लर्निंग आउटकम्स थी वो काफ़ी बेहतर हो गई. The second important one I just want to call out is the importance of parental engagement. And technology allows you to engage parents. And बहुत research हुई भी है which says that if parents are involved in their children's education, not only are educational outcomes better for those children, but life outcomes are better, right? So I think it will it's imperative to involve that group, right, to get involved in their children's education, and technology is a powerful enabler.
No, thanks, Gauri. Also opening to see Gyanendra ji, Rian, Subodh, any...
मैं केवल 1 मिनट लूँगा आपका. ये जो पेरेंट और बच्चे की बात हुई है, बच्चे को एंगेजमेंट करने वाली बात है. मेरा पहला निवेदन ये है, पेरेंट कैसे एंगेज करते हैं और कैसे यूज़ करते हैं अपनी डिवाइस को. हम तो एक्सेसिवली यूज़ कर रहे हैं कुछ भी, और बच्चे को हाथ में जाते ही चाहते हैं कि ये पूरा कंट्रोल रहे. ये चलने वाला नहीं है. There must be some ground rule in the home. How we as a parent are using this cell phone. We are keeping 24 hours with us. रात को सोते समय भी तकिए के पास में, वॉशरूम में जाते हुए भी साथ में लेके जा रहे हैं, और बच्चे से कह रहे हैं कि तू वही देख जो मैं चाहता हूं कि तू देखे. कैसे होगा? So we have to make ground rule in our home. मेरे 2 बच्चे हैं, ग्रोन अप हैं, एक सर्विस में, एक मिडिल कॉलेज में है. हम चारों के डिवाइस का जो पासवर्ड है हम चारों को पता है. हम कभी भी किसी का डिवाइस लेके देख लेते हैं चढ़ाने के तौर से. तो मुझे पता है कि मेरी बेटी मेरी डिवाइस को देख सकती है, तो मुझे क्या देखना है अपने डिवाइस पर, मुझे सतर्क रहना पड़ता है. सो सच टाइप ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस जब तक नहीं आएगा अपने घर में, तब तक आप बच्चों को कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाएंगे. थैंक यू.
Really super valid ones, and some tips for I have like younger kids, so I should adopt some of those practices. So again, from personal experience, I think 2-3 things very easy and hopefully every parent should try and do. Number one, all softwares or hardwares have decent parental lock so that they cannot install any new apps on their own and they cannot go to any non-child friendly content. So at least make sure everybody is putting in that effort. That's what you do. Second, building on what Gauri was saying, most of the educational products now have some form of parent engagement. So activate that either over email or over WhatsApp. You get a quick one, like 2-second, 5-second blurb that you can see, okay, what he or she was doing on the tablet or mobile today. I can just see from that message that pops up in my phone, okay, this is what they were up to today. And third, I think ground rules on physical controls, like post 9 p.m., no screen time for anyone in the house. Screen time limited at this age only to X hours or X minutes. So non-software controls, actual hard ground rules. So those 3 things is practically what we try and do at home, and we learn on the go.
No, thanks a lot. Rian, anything you want to add to this?
Yes, I can see we have limited time, but I want to take a slightly different perspective because the 3 fellow panelists already talked about kind of in the home, you know, what are the best practices, how to model something. I want to take a slightly different point of view because from UNESCO, our main partner is, and our counterpart is the government, right? So what I would say is in terms of AI use and how it's coming into the home, what we argue is that it's the government's role as well to ensure that you use AI ethically and that there has to be some regulation on how the learning products, AI in education learning products, have guidelines, have some standards in terms of how AI should be ethically deployed in education, especially because education is so important. It's also sensitive. A lot of sensitive data is being collected. It has a very significant long-term impact on our society, on our children. So that's why in terms of how parents or households can deal with AI in the home, what we do is we work with the government of India on assessing AI ethics. And specifically in terms of AI in education, it's very, very important that there has to be some dialogue between researchers, the top researchers, for example, from IITs, from universities, industry as well, very important, as well as parents and teachers on what are the AI ethics principles to be instituted for AI EdTech products. So I think that, from my point of view, from UNESCO's point of view, is also very critical. It's not just what, you know, the onus is not just on parents, it's not just on the schools to take all these actions. The responsibility should also be taken up by the government. And the government of India has already announced the landmark, right? Institute of Excellence or Center of Excellence on AI in Education in the latest budget. So I think the government is going in the right way, and we can only hope and we continue to be open to working to ensure that, yes, AI and EdTech is used safely and responsibly for all. Thank you.
No, thanks a lot, Rian. I know we're out of time, but I'm going to see if there are any questions from the audience for any of our panelists. I see a hand up at the back, I see here.
Sir, all of you know that curriculum is not only the syllabus of different subjects, but it is related to the all activities which are we are going to जो एक्टिविटी हम क्लास में लेते हैं और जो पूरे स्कूल में करते हैं उसे तो हम करिकुलम कहते हैं। अब हम जो एआई टूल्स वगैरह देख रहे हैं वो जो है वो एक सब्जेक्ट के लिए रिलेटेड देख रहे हैं। एक सब्जेक्ट इसमें से क्लियर हो रहा है, दूसरा सब्जेक्ट इसमें क्लियर हो रहा है। तो क्या हम ऐसा कुछ कर सकते हैं कि जो मोरल वैल्यूज़ के लिए एआई टूल का कुछ हम प्रयास कर सकेंगे क्या, कि मोरल वैल्यूज़ हमें कैसे बिल्टअप करनी चाहिए, उन्हें मॉडरेट करने के लिए हम AI टूल्स और अदर जो एजुकेशनल टूल्स है उनका उपयोग में ला सकते हैं क्या?
नहीं, आई थिंक इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल क्वेश्चन. इसको दो तरह से सोच सकते हैं. एक, क्या एडटेक प्रोडक्ट्स या एआई टूल्स ये कर सकते हैं. दूसरा, क्या यहाँ पे क्लैरिटी आ रही है क्या काम टेक बेटर कर सकता है और क्या काम ह्यूमंस या टीचर्स को ज़्यादा करना पड़ेगा. बिकॉज जो सोशल लर्निंग की थ्योरी है उसका वन ऑफ द बिगेस्ट थिंग इज मेजॉरिटी, बिहेवियरल वैल्यूज, ये चीज़ें हम सोशल लर्निंग से सीखते हैं. हमारे घर वाले क्या कर रहे हैं, हमारे अड़ोस पड़ोस वाले कर रहे हैं, हमारे टीचर क्या कर रहे हैं. तो वन कुड बी कि अगर प्रोडक्ट्स उस डायरेक्शन में सोच सकें. दूसरा शुड बी, अगर नॉलेज प्रोडक्ट दे रहा है, क्या एज अ टीचर, एज अ स्कूल, एज अ इकोसिस्टम हम इन वैल्यूज पे ज्यादा टाइम दे सकते हैं बिकॉज नॉलेज तो प्रोडक्ट से आ गई है. दैट कुड बी अनदर वे टू थिंक अबाउट इट. रोल सेपरेशन थोड़ा सा.
I think we're out of time, and I just want to, take a moment to thank our, our panelists. It's been such an interesting discussion and hearing from all of you on tech and edtech. What I'm taking away from this discussion is, tech is a big enabler for teachers and students. And really the onus is on each one of us, from the government, from the research community, edtech organizations such as us as KhanEd, other partners, UNESCO, really to make sure that we're leveraging tech in the best way for teachers and students. And now with AI coming, it is going to be very important that in addition to that, we have some regulations, some guidelines on how AI can be used, and, we all can benefit from it. So thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all your thoughts. I'm sure we've all gained a lot from this discussion. And then finally, of course, how can we make usage of home and at home better, and what are some things we can all individually do to make sure our students and our children also learn as they engage with devices. So thank you so much. I think we have a small token of appreciation for all of our panelists. Wait.
The token of appreciation, can I hear the round of applause from everyone? And each of the panelists, thank you so much for sharing all your insights. और जैसे कि हमारी moderator शुभ्रा जी ने हमें बताया कि इस पूरे पैनल से उन्होंने जो टेक अवे लिया कि किस तरह टेक्नोलॉजी का बहुत महत्व है, बहुत उपयोगी चीज़ है टेक्नोलॉजी. साथ ही साथ आगे आने वाले समय में हमें देखना है कि कैसे उन पर सही नियम भी लगने चाहिए, सही रेगुलेशन भी होना चाहिए. विद पावर कम्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, यानी कि ताकत के साथ साथ जो टेक्नोलॉजी की ताकत है, बहुत जिम्मेदारी का भी यह काम है. एंड थैंक यू सो मच टू ऑल आवर पैनलिस्ट जिन्होंने हमें ये सब एस्पेक्ट समझाए.